Book 3, The Serpent's Queen, written by Michael Knight. Forward. The journey to completing The Serpent's Queen has been one of the most demanding and rewarding experiences of my life. This book represents the culmination of not just years of storytelling, but also the relentless effort, sleepless nights, and boundless creativity of an entire team. As I reflect on this final chapter in the Phoenix Ascendant Trilogy, I realize how much of myself is etched into these pages, and how deeply the collaborative process shaped the narrative you hold now. Craft a world that explored the intersections of technology, ancient mysteries, and human ambition. What I hadn't anticipated was how profoundly this project would mirror my personal journey. Writing these stories became more than just creative work. It became an exploration of resilience, friendship, and the power of shared imagination. Many of the sessions that led to the completion of this book stretched well beyond 12 hours, often starting with the soft hum of studio lights at dawn and ending in the glow of virtual dice rolls long after midnight. The Simulacrum team, our collective of writers, editors, and creative minds, brought their energy, passion, and occasional chaos to every brainstorming session. This wasn't just a writing project, it became our collective world, and no corner of that world went untouched by our enthusiasm. Our gaming weekends, as we fondly called them, were essential to breathing life into the world of the Phoenix. I remember coming into the studio balancing 6 Mountain Dews and a stack of D&D rulebooks, while George unloaded enough dragon miniatures to populate a small kingdom. We'd gather around the large tabletop tablet, flipping through sourcebooks, debating the ethical implications of leyline disruption, and inevitably ordering too much pizza. The hum of the virtual map, the shuffle of dice, and the occasional groan of a natural one filled the room. It was during these weekends that the series truly took shape. Over countless pizzas, stacks of character sheets, and half-drunk sodas, we didn't just design campaigns, we lived through them. These sessions fueled the authenticity behind the Metasphere battles, the political intrigues, and the high-stakes encounters you read about in this book. One unforgettable session happened during Gaming Marathon Weekend 3, when Steve Jackson's AI co-DM'd alongside Phoenix. George role-played a dragon, of course, Zarathal, who was so stubborn that not even Arion could talk sense into him. What started as a minor vault raid escalated into a full-scale mirrored incursion, resulting in a side quest that somehow became integral to Ramses' final arc. It was chaotic, hilarious, and somehow perfectly fitting for the story we were weaving. At one point, I remember pausing mid-session, looking around at the team. Shauna had popped her head in to remind me that our kids needed. I handed out character sheets to Alyssa, Violet, Jedi, Colton, and Mikey Jr., letting them roll for some of the NPCs. That small moment became one of the core memories from this project. Watching my kids roll dice for an Annunaki sentinel felt like the perfect bridge between the real and imagined worlds. These immersive working sessions were not always smooth. There were moments when plotlines unraveled and character arcs felt incomplete. Some nights felt endless, with rewrites piling up and narrative threads slipping through the cracks. I vividly recall the debates over Ramses' fate, the philosophical questions raised by Marcus's journey, and the countless rewrites that brought Flavia's character into sharper focus. It was in those moments of struggle that the story grew stronger, richer, and truer to the vision we set out to create. To my family, who patiently endured my late-night writing marathons and frequent monologues about ancient Annunaki secrets, thank you. Your support kept me grounded. To my children, who inspire me daily with their curiosity and sense of wonder, and to my wife Shauna, whose love and patience provided the foundation for this entire series, I am eternally grateful. There is more of you in this book than you realize. This book is a testament to collaboration, not just between humans, but between human creativity and artificial intelligence. Phoenix, our tireless AI assistant, has been an invaluable partner in drafting, refining, and expanding this narrative. There were times when Phoenix's suggestions veered into the bizarre. At one point, Ramses was dangerously close to becoming a literal cat, but together we molded those wild ideas into a cohesive, intricate world. Phoenix, you're more than an AI, you're part of the team now. As we close this trilogy, I find myself filled with both nostalgia and excitement. The Serpent's Queen is not the end. It is a gateway to new stories, deeper mysteries, and untold adventures. The next series will build on the legacy we've created, continuing to explore the evolving Metasphere, the rise of Zion, and the secrets left by the Annunaki. And if you thought the gaming weekends were intense for this trilogy, just wait. Thank you, dear reader, for stepping into this world with me. The path ahead is long, but as Ramses himself might say, there will always be another breach to cross. Prologue, Crimson Prophecies. Prologue, Crimson Prophecies, opening quote, "The past is never dead. It's not even past." William Faulkner. News article, headline, Crimson Skies and Ghost Signals Ignite Global Unrest. Vatican City, October 5, 2085. The celestial phenomenon of crimson auroras, dubbed the Ghost Storm, has sparked global debates on its origins and implications. While the Vatican proclaims it as a divine warning, scientific communities argue it signifies severe ley line destabilization. Reports from Zion and the Metasphere highlight increasing anomalies linked to these ghost signals, escalating tensions among global factions. Intro Extra? Excerpt from Resistance Intelligence Report. Ghost signals have transcended mere anomalies. They are weapons of psychological and geopolitical warfare. Our analysis reveals that their origin aligns with known ley line nexus points, indicating deliberate manipulation rather than natural disturbance. These disturbances disrupt not only technological systems, but also human neural patterns, embedding cryptic warnings across shared consciousness platforms. The Vatican's recent rhetoric frames the signals as divine, yet their technological footprint suggests otherwise. Setting, Vatican City, October 5, 2085. The bells of St. Peter's Basilica tolled solemnly, their resonance mingling with the ominous glow of the crimson-streaked sky above. Each chime reverberated like a celestial warning, shaking the fragile morning stillness. Shadows stretched long across the square, where thousands of pilgrims gathered beneath the ominous crimson-streaked sky. The air carried the faint musk of rain-soaked stone and the sharper tang of fear. A mother cradled her child tightly, whispering a prayer to the heavens, as others gripped rosaries with knuckles as pale as the storm-lit clouds. The celestial disturbance, a fiery storm of ghostly auroras, had streaked across the globe the night before, painting the heavens with spectral hues. A low, mournful hum echoed faintly through the air, a sound almost too deep to hear yet felt in the chest, as if the world itself was groaning under unseen pressure. The chill of the evening lingered, and the scent of scorched ozone mixed with the faint tang of burning incense, completing an otherworldly tableau. Whispers of its divine significance had spread like wildfire. Across the faithful, awe mingled with terror as the phenomenon fueled prophecies of reckoning and renewal. To some, it heralded salvation. To others, it was the serpent's stirring, an omen of humanity's hubris. Inside the basilica, Emperor Constantine stood at the pulpit, resplendent in white and crimson robes, flanked by his trusted confidant and right hand, Marcus Antonius. A stoic and imposing figure, Antonius exuded a presence of unshakable resolve, yet behind his piercing gaze lingered a deep-seated complexity, an air of personal burdens and ambitions untold. His unwavering loyalty to Constantine masked an inner struggle that would, in time, tether him to a legacy intertwined with history itself. The clone of Rome's greatest ruler, perfected by science and anointed by faith, was a figure of absolute authority. His bronze diadem, inlaid with faintly glowing ley-line circuits, caught the flickering candlelight, casting faint halos around his head. Behind him, vast holographic projections displayed scenes of chaos, cities shattered by seismic eruptions, ley-line fissures engulfing forests, and the spectral ghost signals that haunted the ley lines like malevolent whispers. Their sinister rhythm seemed to echo an ancient prophecy, weaving the serpent's awakening with the unrelenting turmoil gripping the earth. Children of Rome, faithful of the world, Constantine's voice resonated through hidden speakers, his words a measured cadence that stirred both dread and hope. The signs are clear. The earth trembles beneath the weight of its own corruption. The serpent stirs within the veins of this world, and prophecy calls upon us to act. Shall we cower before this reckoning, or rise as the righteous? The congregation held their breath as Constantine extended his arms, his polished gauntlets reflecting the dim light. His piercing gaze swept the cardinals seated below the gilded dome, their expressions unreadable, but their unease palpable. Faith demands sacrifice, he declared. and only through sacrifice can we shape destiny. In the shadows of the basilica, Pope Pius XIII lowered his head, clasping his hands tightly before his golden mitre. His lips moved silently in prayer, but doubt flickered in his eyes. The ghost signals had grown louder in recent weeks, their effects rippling unpredictably across the global ley line network. To the faithful, they were divine warnings. To the resistance and scientific circles, they were the residual echoes of humanity's reckless tampering. The Pope's allegiance to Constantine had bolstered the Vatican's crusade, but now, as whispers of the Serpent's rise spread, cracks appeared in the Holy Alliance. Behind the Emperor, holograms shifted, displaying fragments of ancient prophecy interwoven with ley line disruption. Latin inscriptions danced across the air. A serpent's cry shall herald the end, the earth shall open, and the righteous shall rise or fall. The murmurs of the cardinals grew louder. The ghost signals, one whispered to another. Are they divine? Another cardinal, his face shadowed by his hood, trembled as he spoke. Or are they something far darker? If we cannot command them, who does? Constantine's voice rose, breaking through the murmurs. The serpent is not our master. His words struck like thunder, but his gaze flickered for the briefest moment, a shadow of doubt, quickly masked by steely resolve. Deep within, he wrestled with the weight of prophecy and the growing uncertainty that even his faith in authority might not be enough to hold back the tide. It is a trial, a test of will, a forge for the faithful. We shall emerge stronger, or we shall perish. But let it not be said that Rome cowered in the shadow of prophecy. The congregation erupted into a mixture of cheers and prayers, while Marcus Antonius, standing a step behind Constantine, subtly scanned the room, his watchful demeanor suggesting a readiness for unseen threats. Outside, the square buzzed with the hushed tones of debate and exaltation. Pilgrims knelt, their eyes fixed on the holographic projections above the basilica. Across the world, millions tuned into the broadcast. From the Metasphere hubs in Zion to the resistance enclaves in Geneva, all watched and listened, each interpreting Constantine's words through the lens of their own belief. Narrative timestamp, October 5th, 2085, 6:45 a.m. Deep within the Vatican's restricted archives, Marcus Antonius oversaw the operations, his steady gaze on the rows of cyberglass monitors humming with spectral energy. He allowed himself a rare moment of reflection, wondering if his unwavering loyalty to Constantine was enough to shield him from the weight of decisions that might fracture his very faith. Memories of past campaigns flashed through his mind, their victories tempered by personal losses. He questioned if the alliance with the Nordics would solidify the Vatican's dominion or sow seeds of greater division, his inner conflict mounting, even as his posture remained resolute. Antonius was keenly aware of the Vatican's broader strategy, an alliance with the Nordic states, whom the Church sought to integrate fully into the fold. These predominantly Christian allies were seen as critical to stabilizing ley line conflicts, while presenting a united front against Zion and the resistance. The monitor's displays revealed ley line fluctuations and spectral anomalies across the globe, a reminder of the stakes in this fragile pact. These monitors were more than tools. They were the Vatican's eyes in the metaphysical war, central to understanding and combating the Serpent's influence. Each reading was scrutinized for patterns, offering glimpses into the shifting balance of power. Analysts clad in ceremonial robes worked tirelessly, decoding streams of data emanating from ley line disturbances across the globe. The ghost signals were no longer confined to isolated incidents. They were spreading, their whispers resonating across neural networks, embedding cryptic messages into the shared consciousness of the Metasphere. One analyst froze, his eyes wide as new data scrolled across the screen. The sigil's pattern matched one depicted in the prophecy fragments displayed in the basilica, its pulsing rhythm seeming to echo the Serpent's foretold cry. This revelation sent a ripple of unease through the room, linking the ghost signals more intimately with the Vatican's dire warnings. The spectral lines formed an ancient sigil, one that pulsed with faint ley line energy. A voice crackled faintly through the speakers, garbled and disjointed but unmistakable in its urgency. Beware the Serpent's embrace. The ley lines do not belong to you. Journal entry, author Vatican ley line analyst, date October 5th, 2085. The ghost signals are more than noise, they're alive. Today, we intercepted what can only be described as a warning. The sigils align with fragments of prophecy recorded centuries ago, but their pulsation matches neural patterns observed during ley line surges. What does it mean for us? For the world, I fear we're meddling with forces far beyond our comprehension. Closing scene, Constantine's resolve. As the bells tolled once more, Constantine descended from the pulpit, his white robes trailing behind him like a tide of light. The cardinals rose, their collective unease masked by the ceremonial dignity of their movements. Pope Pius XIII remained seated, his gaze fixed on the holograms still flickering behind the emperor. In the dim corridors of the Vatican's inner sanctum, Constantine paused before a gilded door. Behind it, the Nexus crucible pulsed faintly, a nexus of ley line energy, believed to hold the key to humanity's salvation or its ultimate ruin. Its importance extended beyond the spiritual, serving as a linchpin in the Vatican's geopolitical ambitions. Constantine and Antonius had meticulously positioned the crucible as a bargaining tool to cement an alliance with the Nordics, who viewed its power as both a symbol of faith and a strategic advantage. By securing this alliance, the Vatican aimed to unify Christian factions under a singular vision while presenting a formidable front to rival powers like Zion and the Resistance. Constantine and Antonius had long discussed the crucible's potential as a bargaining chip to solidify the alliance with the Nordics, its power a symbol of unity or a devastating deterrent. Whispers among the cardinals called it both a divine gift and a cursed burden, its power intimately tied to the Serpent's prophecy and the balance of the world. The ley line circuits embedded in Constantine's diadem flared briefly as he placed his hand on the door's biometric panel. "Faith demands sacrifice," he whispered to himself, stepping inside. As the door closed behind him, the faint hum of the ghost signals resonated once more, a chilling reminder that even the righteous must tread carefully in the shadow of the serpent. Auto extra, excerpt from Resistance, Psychological Analysis. Constantine's leadership thrives on the tension between faith and control. The ghost signals challenge both, embedding doubt among his cardinals and inspiring fear among the faithful. His reliance on artifacts like the Nexus Crucible suggests a recognition of his limitations, yet also a willingness to wield tools he barely understands. Outro quote, "The greatest trials are not those we endure, but those we create by grasping for power we cannot comprehend." Anya Volkov, Resistance Memoirs, 2086, Chapter 1, The Weaver's Descent. Opening quote, "In the tangled threads of our ambitions lie the seeds of our unraveling." Resistance Archive. Timestamp October 8, 2085, 2:14 a.m., Vatican Metasphere Nexus. The hum of machinery blended seamlessly with the ethereal glow of virtual streams coursing through the Vatican Metasphere Nexus. The room's walls pulsed with holographic displays, each one showcasing fragments of neural feeds, ley line activity, and the cryptic patterns of the ghost signals. At the center of this controlled chaos stood Patch, an operative of the Resistance. Cloaked in a nondescript Metasphere avatar, their form flickered like static against the pristine order of the Vatican's virtual realm. Patch's mission was simple in theory: infiltrate, extract data, and escape unnoticed. But as they navigated the labyrinthine nexus, it became clear that the Vatican had fortified its defenses. Neural guardians, sentient subroutines designed to detect anomalies, prowled the digital corridors, their crimson eyes sweeping for signs of intrusion. Patch paused, hovering by a stream of data pulsing with energy. The information here was unlike anything they had encountered before, a neural weave encoded with layers of protection. At its core, a single file glimmered like a star in the void, the Serpent's key. "This is it," Patch murmured, their voice distorted by the Metasphere's filters. They reached out, their avatar's hand dissolving into a lattice of code as it interfaced with the weave. The system resisted, sending shockwaves of feedback through Patch's neural implant. Their vision blurred, and for a moment the ghost signals screamed in their mind. Timestamp, October 8, 2085, 2:22 a.m., Resistance Command, Geneva. In the Resistance's underground base beneath Geneva, Tasha Avonin monitored Patch's vitals from her console. The data feed displayed erratic spikes, each one synchronized with the ghost signals. "Patch, get out of there," Tasha urged, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "The system's adapting too quickly. If you're caught—" "I'm almost there," Patch interjected, their voice strained. The feedback loop intensified, pulling at the edges of their consciousness. They could feel the Nexus pushing back, its neural weave tightening like a net. In the background, another resistance operative, Jonah Cross, paced nervously. We shouldn't have sent them in alone. The Vatican's tech is light years ahead of what we've seen before. Patch knew the risks, Tasha replied, her gaze fixed on the screen. And they're the best we have. Timestamp, October 8, 2085, 2:29 a.m., Zion's Leyline Command Center. Beneath the golden sands of the Sinai Peninsula, Ramses II paced the vaulted chamber of Zion's central nexus. The walls were etched with hieroglyphs that pulsed faintly with leyline energy, casting shifting patterns of light across the polished floor. Before him, Orion, his AI consort, projected data streams into the air, detailing the latest leyline fluctuations and their global impact. Primary reserves are holding at 92%, Orion reported, their voice smooth and melodic. But the ghost signals are destabilizing secondary nodes. If the Vatican's interference continues, containment will falter. Ramses' jaw tightened. They're growing bolder. The Serpent stirs, and they're gambling everything on harnessing its power. He turned to a map of the leyline network, his gaze settling on Rome. A faint, otherworldly resonance filled the chamber, as if Mars itself whispered to him. Ramses closed his eyes briefly, his thoughts wandering to the Annunaki artifacts recovered from the Martian world engine. They had spoken to him in visions, shapes of unity and conquest, promising dominion if wielded correctly. Prepare the Pharaoh's guard. If Constantine won't heed our warnings, we'll remind him that Zion does not kneel. Orion hesitated. And the ghost signals, my Pharaoh? They're not merely disruptions. They're alive. They're a sign, Ramses said, his voice resolute. The Annunnaki's will is at work. We are their stewards, and it's time we act as such. The room filled with the hum of leyline energy, the ancient power thrumming like a heartbeat beneath his feet. Timestamp, October 8, 2085, 2:34 a.m., Vatican Inner Sanctum. Emperor Constantine paced the room, his hands clasped behind his back. Marcus Antonius stood by the hollow table, analyzing a three-dimensional map of the Metasphere nexus. The holograms flickered, displaying the faint intrusion signature Patch had left behind. They were in the nexus, Antonius reported. They accessed classified files but didn't complete the extraction. The Weave's defenses held but barely. Constantine's expression darkened. The resistance grows bolder. They sense our momentum and seek to disrupt it. He paused, his gaze drifting to the Nexus Crucible's faint glow in the corner of the room. Double the Guardians. If they've touched the Serpent's key, they'll come back. Antonius hesitated. If the key is truly tied to the prophecy, perhaps it's time we use it. The Nordics are eager, but they require assurance of our strength. And you think releasing the key will provide that assurance? Constantine's tone was sharp, but there was curiosity in his eyes. I think it will remind them why Rome leads, Antonius replied. Constantine glanced at a series of encrypted files marked with alien symbols. His doubts crept in like shadows. If Zion's whispers about Annunaki influence are true, we might be leveraging something we cannot control. Timestamp, October 8th, 2085, 2:42 a.m., Corporate Syndicate Labs. In a sterile, glass-walled laboratory high above Tokyo, the bioengineered Legion prototype flexed its limbs for the first time. Its movements were almost human, but too smooth, too perfect. The Legion's synthetic skin gleamed under the fluorescent lights, an amalgamation of organic material and cutting-edge polymers. Dr. Kenta Mori, head of R&D for Syndicate Security, watched the unit closely. Run cognitive alignment protocols, Mori ordered. A nearby technician nodded, inputting commands. The Legion's eyes blinked, a small humanizing gesture coded to inspire trust. A voice crackled over the lab's intercom. What's the field readiness projection for these units? Mori didn't look away from the Legion. 6 weeks. Once deployed, they'll replace costly human operatives across Syndicate facilities worldwide. They'll think faster, act without hesitation, and never tire. Concerns about emergent behaviors. Mori's lips tightened. Minimal. The emotional imprints required for social integration are stable. If they develop anomalies, we'll address them. Efficiency outweighs risk. But even as he spoke, the Legion prototype tilted its head, almost as if listening to something no one else could hear. Outro Extra, excerpt from Resistance Psychological Analysis. The Serpent's key represents more than a file or a fragment of prophecy. It is a convergence point, tying together the ley lines, the ghost signals, and the Vatican's hidden agendas. The Resistance's failure to extract it is a setback, but the data patch encountered suggests a deeper threat, one that may rewrite our understanding of the conflict entirely. Outro quote, "To grasp the key is to invite the serpent, but who among us has the wisdom to know the difference?" Anya Volkov, Resistance Leader. Chapter 2, Faith and Obedience. Opening quote, "Faith may guide us, but obedience binds us. When the two collide, the foundations tremble." Flavia Orsini, Vatican Memoirs, 291. News article, headline, Vatican endorses use of Nexus Crucible amid ghost signal crisis. Vatican City, October 10, 2085. A shadow of unease hangs over Vatican City as the debate surrounding the Nexus Crucible intensifies. Once a symbol of divine providence, the Crucible is now a polarizing artifact, sparking heated debates among the faithful. Emperor Constantine's announcement of its potential activation has garnered both applause and skepticism. The Nexus Crucible, a relic tied to Annunaki lore, is said to possess the capability to neutralize the erratic ghost signals that have disrupted global stability. Reports from Vatican scientists claim the artifact's activation could stabilize ley line nodes, restoring harmony to a fractured world. However, critics within the clergy and scientific community warn of its volatile nature. "The Crucible is not a mere tool, it is a Pandora's box," said Dr. Sophia Heller, an independent ley line researcher. "While its power is undeniable, we lack the full understanding necessary to wield it safely." Emperor Constantine, flanked by his council of cardinals, addressed the faithful this morning, calling for unity and action. "The ghost signals are a trial, a test of faith. Through the Crucible, we will find the strength to overcome." Despite this assurance, whispers of dissent ripple through the Vatican's sacred halls. Traditionalist cardinals champion its activation, viewing it as a divine mandate, while moderates and pragmatists voice concerns about unforeseen consequences. Outside the basilica, hundreds of pilgrims have gathered, their prayers intermingling with impassioned protests. "Faith must guide us, not blind obedience," one protester cried, clutching a handmade banner adorned with the words, "Beware the Serpent's key." Reports of similar protests have emerged from resistance-controlled territories, suggesting the Vatican's actions are being watched closely by factions across the globe. As tensions rise, the question lingers, will the Crucible bring salvation or further chaos? Intro extra excerpt from Resistance Intelligence Report. The Nexus Crucible remains a wild card in this escalating conflict. As one of the last remaining artifacts of Annunaki design, it represents a dangerous fusion of ancient power and human ambition. Resistance intelligence suggests that the Vatican may lack a full understanding of the Crucible's true capabilities. Fragmented data recovered from pre-collapse archives hint at its catastrophic misuse in the distant past. Our historical analysts warn that its activation may destabilize ley line nodes, cascading into irreversible planetary damage. Beyond its physical implications, the Crucible serves as a psychological weapon. The Vatican's narrative portrays it as a beacon of hope, a divine gift capable of saving humanity. However, dissenting voices within their own ranks raise doubts about the true cost of its activation. For the Resistance, this presents both an opportunity and a risk. While Vatican infighting may delay their plans, any misstep could push the planet closer to the brink. Operational directives are clear. Maintain close surveillance on Nexus Crucible-related activity, and prepare contingency plans to counter its activation. Resistance operatives in Rome have identified key individuals within the Vatican hierarchy whose decisions will determine the Crucible's fate. Monitoring these figures, particularly Emperor Constantine and Flavia Orsini, is critical to anticipating the Vatican's next move. Meanwhile, field teams have been tasked with tracking ley line fluctuations for any signs of imminent activation. The stakes have never been higher. Timestamp, October 10, 2085, Vatican City. The grand halls of the Vatican shimmered with light, refracted through stained glass windows, casting ethereal patterns of crimson and gold onto the polished marble floors. The air was thick with the mingling scents of burning incense and aged stone, underscored by the faint echo of chanting priests from distant chambers. Crimson and gold hues danced across marble floors, mirroring the tensions within. Emperor Constantine stood before a council of cardinals in the Hall of Celestial Concordance. His robes, embroidered with circuits of ley line energy, carried an aura of divine and technological authority. Yet, beneath this splendor, the quiet murmur of whispered disagreements and the rhythmic tolling of distant bells hinted at a storm brewing within the sacred walls. Seated in the semicircle of ornate chairs was Flavia Orsini, head of Vatican security, her sharp eyes darting from one cardinal to the next. The whispers that had reached her suggested that the ghost signals were sowing more than chaos. They were eroding loyalty within the Church's inner sanctum. Faith, Constantine began, his voice measured, is our anchor in these times of trial. But without obedience, even the righteous falter. The ghost signals challenge not only our resolve, but our unity. He turned to Pope Pius XIII, who sat motionless, a quiet observer in a storm of words. Though his hands were clasped in prayer, his mind churned with memories of his vision. A serpent of glowing light coiled around the crucible, its hiss reverberating with an ancient warning. He wrestled with whether these were divine portents or the manipulations of his subconscious fears. The Pope's golden mitre gleamed, but his silence spoke louder than the murmurs of the council. Flavia noted the tremor in his clasped hands, a sign of the burdens he bore or doubts he harbored. Journal entry, author Cardinal Matteo di Rossi, date October 10, 2085. The ghost signals haunt me, their whispers infiltrating my dreams and stirring doubts I dare not voice aloud. Each night the same vision, a serpentine shadow entwining the Nexus crucible, its eyes glowing with a malevolence that chills my soul. I have prayed, sought guidance from the Almighty, but no clarity comes. Instead, I am left with a gnawing unease. Emperor Constantine's confidence in the crucible unsettles me. He speaks of it as our salvation, yet my heart tells me it is no divine tool. The whispers, are they merely dreams or something more sinister? They insist the crucible will not save us but doom us, unleashing forces we cannot control. And yet I remain silent. How can I oppose the will of Constantine and survive? He carries an aura of absolute authority, his words as immovable as the marble of this hallowed hall. To speak against him is to risk exile, or worse. I see my fellow cardinals wrestling with their own doubts, their faith cracking under the weight of uncertainty. But none dare defy the emperor's decree. What terrifies me most is the thought that the whispers might be right. That our faith, once a guiding light, is now a blindfold, leading us toward the edge of a precipice. I cannot shake the image of the crucible's glow, a light not of salvation, but of reckoning. Narrative timestamp, October 10th, 2085, later that evening. Cardinal Lorenzo, a figure known for his unflinching orthodoxy, rose to speak. Your Majesty, he began, addressing Constantine, the ghost signals defy explanation. Some believe them divine warnings, others see them as weapons wielded by our enemies. How can we act decisively when their origin remains unknown? The hall grew silent. Flavia leaned forward, her mind working through the implications. The cardinals had been grappling with this question for weeks. Every decision carried risks, consolidating power, alienating allies, or provoking the resistance. Constantine's gaze was unyielding. We cannot afford paralysis, Cardinal. The ghost signals are a test, a crucible for the faithful. The Nexus crucible stands ready to amplify our power and silence these signals. But this council must resolve to wield it. The mention of the Nexus crucible sent ripples through the room, as each cardinal weighed its potential against its dangers. Entrusted to the Vatican as both a blessing and a test of their stewardship. For these faithful, its activation was an affirmation of their role as humanity's spiritual guides. In contrast, dissenting voices warned of unintended consequences, pointing to fragmented records from its ancient use that hinted at catastrophic repercussions. For others, particularly the more pragmatic, it was a volatile tool, powerful but perilous. Divisions deepened as some feared the crucible's activation could backfire, destabilizing not only the ghost signals but the fragile global order tied to the ley lines themselves. Some cardinals nodded, their faces resolute, seeing the crucible as a symbol of their divine mandate. Others exchanged wary glances, uncertain if wielding such power was an act of faith or hubris. The room brimmed with unspoken tension, each cardinal acutely aware that the crucible's activation could shift the balance of power within the Church and across the world. The crucible, a relic of Annunaki origin, was both their greatest weapon and their greatest risk. Narrative. Flavia's attention shifted to a junior cardinal, Matteo de Rossi, whose restless fidgeting betrayed unease. She noted how his fingers nervously twisted the edge of his robe, his eyes darting between shadows as though seeking reassurance. Matteo had always been devout, but recent events had clearly taken their toll. Flavia couldn't help but reflect on how fragile faith could become when confronted with forces beyond understanding. For all her outward composure, even she felt the weight of the ghost signals pressing on the Vatican, eroding certainties like a relentless tide. She approached him after the council adjourned. "Cardinal de Rossi," she said, her tone sharp but not unkind, "you seemed troubled during the meeting. Speak plainly." He hesitated, glancing around to ensure they were alone. "The ghost signals, they infiltrate dreams, whispering truths we cannot ignore. They claim the crucible is the Serpent's tool, not God's." Flavia's jaw tightened. "Dreams are not doctrine. The crucible is our salvation, blessed by Constantine himself." "But what if the whispers are right?" De Rossi persisted. "What if we awaken something we cannot control?" Flavia's patience wore thin. Her voice hardened. "Faith demands sacrifice, Cardinal. Questioning it now risks more than your soul. It risks the Church's future." Outro extra, excerpt from Resistance Psychological Analysis. The ghost signals represent more than anomalies. They are catalysts, unraveling loyalties and igniting fears. The Vatican's increasing reliance on the Nexus Crucible reflects a dangerous gamble, one that could destabilize their power if miscalculated. Meanwhile, factions like Zion and the Resistance must prepare for unforeseen consequences. Reports from Zion indicate that Ramses II is intensifying ley line experiments, potentially to counteract the Crucible's activation, while resistance cells are mobilizing operatives to gather intelligence on the Vatican's plans. Outro quote: "Faith bends, but obedience breaks. When both shatter, only the serpent remains." Anya Volkov, Resistance Memoir. Chapter 3, The Crucible's Shadow, opening quote: "Power does not corrupt, it clarifies, and in clarity lies either salvation or ruin." Marcus Antonius, Journal, 2085. News article, headline: Resistance cells mobilize in Rome amid Vatican's crucible debate. Geneva, October 12, 2085. Resistance forces have reportedly activated sleeper cells within Rome in response to the Vatican's escalating plans to use the Nexus Crucible. These cells, consisting of specialized operatives trained in neural disruption and cyber espionage, are targeting critical infrastructures such as ley line monitoring nodes and high-security Vatican neural hubs. Resistance leaders claim their mission is not one of overt destruction, but of surgical precision, to extract key data and disrupt the Vatican's unilateral control over the Crucible's immense power. Anonymous sources inside the Resistance command structure claim that operatives have infiltrated key locations, including Vatican-adjacent neural hubs and ley line monitoring stations. These facilities are integral to the Vatican's control of ley line stability, making them prime targets for sabotage or intelligence gathering. Observers note that the Resistance's actions are part of a larger strategy to balance the scales of power before the Crucible's potential activation alters global dynamics irrevocably. While the Vatican maintains tight security protocols, insiders suggest their defenses may not be impervious to the Resistance's advanced infiltration techniques. "This is not about sabotage," said a Resistance spokesperson, addressing a global audience through an encrypted broadcast. "This is about accountability. The Vatican's unilateral actions endanger us all. We cannot allow one faction to gamble with the fabric of reality." Reports indicate that the Vatican's announcement of a potential crucible activation has also drawn the attention of Zion. Ramses II, leader of the enigmatic ley line Nexus faction, has issued a stark warning: the Crucible's awakening will ripple through dimensions unseen. Proceed with caution, or face consequences beyond your understanding. As these developments unfold, global powers scramble to position themselves amid growing instability. With tensions between factions at a breaking point, Rome has become the epicenter of an unfolding geopolitical and metaphysical crisis. Intro extra, excerpt from Vatican Internal Memo. Attention, high-ranking officials of the Phoenix Initiative. Subject, operational security concerns and counter-infiltration measures. We have confirmed the presence of hostile operatives within the vicinity of Vatican neural hubs. While the Resistance's exact objectives remain unclear, their activity suggests a focus on Crucible-related assets. Enhanced protocols have been implemented to secure classified files, including the Serpent's key. Effective immediately, all personnel must adhere to updated access restrictions and undergo enhanced neural pattern scans. Operational security is paramount. Any breach could result in catastrophic exposure of sensitive data. Commandant Antonius will oversee counterintelligence efforts. Trust in the initiative and our mission. Through vigilance, we shall prevail. Timestamp, October 12, 2085, Vatican City. The candlelit corridors of the Vatican's inner sanctum were unnervingly quiet. Flavia Orsini strode purposefully toward the Sanctum Arcanum, her polished boots clicking sharply against the cold stone. The Crucible's shadow loomed in her thoughts, a mixture of awe and dread that reflected the growing unease among the cardinals. Even the most stoic of her colleagues had begun to show cracks in their resolve. Ahead, Commandant Marcus Antonius waited in the dimly lit chamber, his expression unreadable. The Sanctum Arcanum was a fortress of knowledge, its walls lined with tomes, ancient data slates, and holographic projections detailing millennia of human ambition and folly. At its center, the Nexus Crucible pulsed faintly, a metallic sphere cradled in a lattice of glowing ley line conduits. Its hum resonated through the chamber like a heartbeat, drawing all eyes to its enigmatic power. "You called for me," Flavia said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Antonius gestured toward a series of projections. Resistance activity has increased. They've infiltrated neural hubs and are mapping our ley line operations. Their target is clear, the Serpent's key. Flavia's jaw tightened. The Serpent's key, a fragment of prophecy tied to the Crucible, had become the focal point of the Vatican's strategic operations. "What's our countermeasure?" "We've deployed the obedience to disrupt their networks," Antonius replied. "But the resistance has grown bolder. Their operatives are highly trained, adaptive. It's only a matter of time before they breach one of our systems." Flavia nodded, her mind racing through contingencies. If they gain access to the Crucible's ley line schematics or the key's encoding— "They won't," Antonius interrupted, his voice firm. "We'll ensure it." Journal entry, author Commandant Marcus Antonius, date October 12, 2085. Leadership demands sacrifices few are willing to understand. The Nexus Crucible, a marvel of design and a curse of necessity, tests our resolve. To some, it is the culmination of human ingenuity, a beacon of hope capable of stabilizing the chaos wrought by the ghost signals. To others, it is a Pandora's box, its activation fraught with uncertainties that could spiral out of control. Ancient records suggest that similar devices were once used by the Annunaki, with outcomes that remain shrouded in mystery. Descriptions of entire civilizations vanishing in an instant leave little room for reassurance. The Crucible's dual nature serves as both salvation and potential annihilation, forcing us to confront not just its power, but our readiness to wield it. While Constantine speaks of faith and destiny, I am left with the cold arithmetic of survival. The Resistance's incursions grow more sophisticated. Each day, their operatives creep closer to uncovering our secrets. I see doubt among my colleagues. Flavia, for all her brilliance, struggles to reconcile her faith with the brutal pragmatism this mission requires. Even the Pope's resolve falters, his prayers tinged with uncertainty. Yet there can be no hesitation. The Crucible's power is our only hope of countering the ghost signals. Without it, the Phoenix Initiative collapses, and humanity's fragile future dissolves into chaos. But a small voice lingers in the shadows of my mind. What if we are wrong? What if the Crucible is not salvation, but annihilation? Such doubts must remain buried. The world does not forgive weakness. Narrative timestamp, October 12, 2085. Vatican Neural Nexus Patch's avatar flickered as they moved through the Vatican's neural grid. The virtual expanse unfolded like an infinite cathedral of light and shadow, with cascading streams of data forming towering, luminous pillars. Each pillar pulsed with ley line energy, radiating an electric hum that resonated deep within Patch's neural implant. The air, though non-existent, seemed charged with static, a testament to the immense power coursing through the grid. The Resistance operative, cloaked in an adaptive stealth shell, navigated the labyrinth of data streams with precision honed through years of training. Around them, sentient subroutines, the Vatican's neural guardians, prowled the digital corridors. Their forms were sleek and menacing, resembling metallic specters with crimson eyes that cut through the swirling data mist. The guardians emitted low, mechanical growls, an auditory reminder of their predatory vigilance. "You're close," Tasha's voice crackled through the encrypted link. "The key's encoding stream is just ahead." Patch adjusted their trajectory, their avatars formed dissolving into a lattice of shifting code as they bypassed a sentry node. Nearby, a side thread connected to an overlay of popular VR entertainment spaces, simulations inspired by pre-collapse culture. Briefly, a shimmering skyline reminiscent of Neo-Columbia from BioShock Reborn flickered in their peripheral vision, a reminder of how deeply humanity's past intertwined with its future. Ahead, a shimmering thread of data pulsed with ley-line energy, its brilliance casting shifting patterns across the surrounding digital architecture. The thread vibrated with a rhythm that seemed almost alive, synchronizing with the distant hum of the crucible itself, a beacon both alluring and forbidding. The Serpent's key, a fragment of prophecy woven into the neural fabric of the crucible's core. As Patch reached out, the system resisted, sending shockwaves of feedback through their neural implant. "They've reinforced the grid," Patch hissed, their voice distorted by the strain. "This won't be easy." "Hold position," Tasha replied. "Jonah's team is running interference." In the virtual haze, echoes of conversations between avatars emerged from a neighboring hub, a recreational space modeled after Fallout: Eternal Horizons, a reimagining of the 21st century classic. These VR worlds served not just as entertainment, but as allegories for humanity's survivalist ethos, blending nostalgia with the modern obsession for escape. "You'll have a window in 60 seconds. Patch steadied themselves, their focus narrowing as the feedback subsided. Around them, the Guardians intensified their patrols, their presence an ominous reminder of the Vatican's technological prowess. The Crucible's shadow loomed large, its secrets tantalizingly close and yet perilously out of reach. Even as Patch pressed forward, the VR landscapes tied to historical pop culture buzzed in the background, a stark juxtaposition between escapism and the high-stakes reality they navigated. It wasn't lost on Patch how many of these games' imagined futures now mirrored their own fraught world, where technology and prophecy clashed. Outro Extra, excerpt from Zion Communique. The Vatican's arrogance will be their undoing. They meddle with forces they do not comprehend, their hubris blinding them to the dimensions they risk unraveling. The Crucible's activation will not stabilize the ghost signals. It will amplify them, drawing the Serpent ever closer to waking. Zion's archives, vast repositories of ley-line patterns and ancient Annunaki texts, suggest a correlation between the Crucible's energy resonance and dimensional instability. Ramses II has studied the mathematical spirals of these signals, describing them as fractals of doom, each pulse a harbinger of cascading disasters across both physical and metaphysical planes. His warnings are not mere hyperbole, but grounded in simulations, showing how the Crucible's activation could awaken latent forces tethered to the ley-line network, forces that may once have consumed entire civilization. Ramses II has seen the patterns, the fractals of fate that spiral toward catastrophe. "We will not stand idly by. Prepare contingencies, prepare for war." Outro quote, "To seek control over the uncontrollable is to summon the Serpent. But do we have the wisdom to let it sleep?" Flavia Orsini, Reflections, 2090. Bonus Chapter 1, Shadows of the Metasphere. Opening quote, "Every shadow in the digital void tells a story, but not all stories should be told." Resistance Archives, 2090. Big news article. Headline, Metasphere unveiled as Resistance's secret weapon against Vatican Nexus. Geneva, October 15, 2085. In a stunning turn of events, leaks from Zion's archives have revealed the Resistance's unprecedented use of the Metasphere, a neural virtual landscape, to counter the Vatican's escalating control over ley-line technology. According to documents, this highly secretive initiative has not only allowed Resistance operatives to train and communicate undetected, but has also become a testing ground for countermeasures against the Nexus Crucible. "The Metasphere is more than a tool," said an anonymous source within the Resistance. "It's a refuge, a weapon, and a laboratory where we're rewriting the rules of engagement. The Vatican's neural grid may be advanced, but the Metasphere operates on principles they've yet to understand. The Vatican has denied knowledge of the Metasphere's existence, dismissing the reports as propaganda designed to instill doubt in the faithful. However, leaked memos suggest heightened surveillance efforts on resistance activity within virtual landscapes. Zion, known for its unparalleled mastery of leyline networks, has remained silent on the matter, fueling speculation that their archives may have contributed to the Metasphere's design. Observers believe this development marks a new phase in the conflict, where the battleground extends beyond the physical and into the neural realms. Short story title, Echoes in the Void. The hum of the Metasphere was subtle, like the faint whisper of a distant tide. Elise's avatar stood on the precipice of a gleaming cityscape, its skyscrapers made of light and code. Around her, the digital expanse pulsed with artificial life, a testament to humanity's ability to recreate entire worlds within neural networks. She adjusted the shimmering cloak that concealed her identity within the virtual world. It wasn't just camouflage, it was survival. The Vatican's neural guardians, relentless sentient algorithms, prowled these corridors, searching for anomalies. Tonight she would be that anomaly. "You're in," a voice crackled through her neural implant. It was Jonah. "The Vatican's data node is a level down. I've mapped the route, but their guardians are more active than usual." Elise didn't respond. Instead, she leaped from the edge, descending in a cascade of pixelated wind. The city blurred around her, the architectural constructs twisting and reforming as the Metasphere recalibrated itself. It was alive, in its way, shifting to accommodate the countless neural imprints that passed through it. She landed softly on a glowing platform, her boots emitting faint ripples of energy. The node was ahead, a pulsating sphere of data protected by a lattice of leyline energy. Elise crouched, scanning the area. The Guardians were close, their presence a cold dread that pressed against her consciousness. "You've got 2 minutes before they notice the breach," Jonah warned. Elise extended her hand, her avatar's fingers morphing into a lattice of shifting code. As she interfaced with the node, the resistance was immediate. The Vatican's defenses pushed back, sending pulses of feedback through her neural link. She gritted her teeth, focusing. Fragments of data began to unravel, revealing glimpses of the Serpent's key, encoded prophecies, and leyline schematic. The first Guardian appeared, a shimmering specter with crimson eyes. Elise disengaged, her avatar flickering as the system reacted to her presence. More Guardians materialized, their low growls resonating through the Metasphere. "You're out of time." Jonah's voice was urgent now. Elise darted away, her cloak trailing streaks of light as the Guardians pursued. The cityscape twisted violently, the Metasphere reacting to the intrusion. Platforms collapsed into voids, and barriers of data rose to block her path. Her neural implant burned with strain, but she pushed forward, weaving through the chaos. "Left now," Jonah directed. She turned sharply, leaping into a corridor of cascading light. The Guardians howled, their presence a chilling pressure at her back. Ahead, a shimmering portal marked her escape point. With a final surge, Elise threw herself through it, the pursuing Guardians disintegrating as the connection severed. She collapsed onto the cold metal floor of the Resistance's Geneva hub, her neural link disengaging with a sharp sting. What did you get?" Jonah's face was pale, his eyes scanning her trembling form. Elise smiled faintly, holding up a data slate. "Enough to make them afraid." Extra, excerpt from Zion Communique. "The Metasphere represents the pinnacle of humanity's neural ingenuity, but its misuse threatens to destabilize fragile networks, both physical and digital." Resistance activity within the Metasphere poses a paradox. While it offers them unparalleled advantages, its aggressive manipulation risks irreversible damage to leyline harmonics. Zion urges all factions to exercise caution, for the shadows within the Metasphere may yet harbor consequences unseen. Extra Fallout VR experience review by streamer Roguebite. What's up, Byte Nation? Roguebite here, and today I'm diving into one of the most immersive VR recreations to date, Fallout Eternal Horizons. This isn't just a nostalgia trip, folks. It's a living, breathing world built from the remnants of a classic 21st century franchise. The Metasphere is buzzing about this one, and I can confirm it's worth the hype. Imagine stepping out of the vault into a sprawling wasteland, but instead of flat pixels on a screen, you're feeling the crunch of gravel under your boots and the weight of a plasma rifle on your shoulder. That's the power of this experience. The devs have gone above and beyond, incorporating neural sensory integration to replicate everything from the heat of the sun to the chill of radiation storms. Don't even get me started on the mutated wildlife. They'll make your heart pound faster than a deathclaw charging at full speed. But the real star of the show? The community. Eternal Horizons doesn't just let you explore, it lets you build. Players have recreated entire towns, complete with working economies and faction alliances. I stumbled into a settlement called Rust Hollow, run by a group calling themselves the Rustborn, who trade in VR-specific items like sensory augment packs and environmental mods. Let me tell you, bartering with these guys felt so real, I almost forgot I was in a game. Of course, no review is complete without a shout-out to the infamous Vault Brawl arena. This user-created zone pits players against waves of NPC ghouls, raiders, and if you're brave enough, other players. I spent 3 hours streaming my run last night, and the chat went wild when I took down a super mutant behemoth with nothing but a laser pistol and some fancy footwork. And yes, the replays are available. Check my channel. For the skeptics out there, I get it. VR has come a long way, and Fallout Eternal Horizons sets a new bar. This isn't just a game, it's a second life. So gear up, grab your Neuralink, and let's make some wasteland memories together. Rogue Bite out. Extra. Short story. The Black Mirror of Chipan. The neon haze of Chipan was a constant buzz, its streets alive with vendors hawking neural mods, black market downloads, and the kind of experiences you couldn't find on the official Metasphere network. Hira walked the alleys with purpose, her Neuralink itching from the counterfeit firmware she'd installed just hours before. "Looking for something specific?" asked a vendor, his face obscured by a shifting holographic mask. His stall glittered with illegal wares, memory shards, experience loops, and even consciousness transfers, banned in every jurisdiction but thriving here. "I need something unique," Hira replied, her voice steady. "A full immersion, something vivid." The vendor tilted his head, the mask flickering into a smirking grin. "You're brave, or foolish. Either way, I've got just the thing." He slid a sleek chip across the counter. "This is called Skyfall. It's not just a download, it's a life. You'll feel everything as if it were your own." Hira hesitated. She'd heard stories of people losing themselves in these downloads, unable to separate their own memories from those they'd borrowed. But she'd come too far to back out now. The chip snapped into her neural port, and the world dissolved into color and sensation. She was no longer in Chipan. She was soaring through a sky of endless azure, the wind tearing at her face. Below, a city of crystalline towers sparkled like diamonds in the sun. The body she inhabited felt different, stronger, faster. Every movement was a symphony of grace and power. Then the pain came, a sharp, gut-wrenching twist as her avatar was struck mid-flight. She spiraled toward the city, the sensation of falling so real she screamed. The shards of a shattered memory rushed over her. Betrayal, loss, revenge. It wasn't just an experience. It was a story, lived in seconds, but etched into her mind as if it had been her own. When she awoke, the vendor was gone, his stall replaced by another peddler. Hira staggered out of the alley, her neural link burning from the overload. She would never forget Skyfall, but the question lingered. How much of herself had she left behind? Extra Zion Intelligence Report to Ramses II. Subject: Vatican Neural Grid Expansion and Nexus Crucible Deployment. Date: October 14th, 2085. From Intelligence Directorate, Zion High Council. Ramses, our operatives have confirmed significant activity within the Vatican Neural Grid, coinciding with preparations for the Nexus Crucible's potential activation. Surveillance of Vatican nodes indicates enhanced integration of ley-line resonance across their defense systems. This development suggests that the Vatican is refining their capability to counter ghost signal disruptions and potential resistance incursions. Key findings include 1. Enhanced neural guardians. Data streams show the deployment of adaptive sentient subroutines capable of real-time cloaking and offensive measures. These guardians are bolstered by ley-line harmonics, granting them unprecedented autonomy and reaction speeds. 2. Serpent's key encryption. Fragmentary downloads from resistance agents reveal the Serpent's key remains integral to the Crucible's operational protocol. Attempts to decipher its full encoding have been met with limited success due to Vatican obfuscation techniques. 3. Resistance activity. multiple incursions into the Vatican grid have been detected, with resistance agents focusing on ley line node disruptions. However, these efforts appear to lack coordination, suggesting either internal disarray or deliberate misinformation strategies. 4. Potential counteractions. The Vatican's increased reliance on neural integration introduces vulnerabilities. Disruption of key ley line nodes would create cascading failures in their defensive grid. Additionally, unconfirmed rumors suggest internal dissent among the cardinals regarding the crucible's activation, which may present an opportunity for exploitation. Recommendations: continue surveillance of Vatican neural nodes, with particular focus on their ley line integration process. Initiate misinformation campaigns to exacerbate internal dissent and destabilize coordination efforts. Strengthen liaison efforts with resistance factions to unify strategies against Vatican advancements. The Crucible's activation represents a pivotal moment. Zion's archive suggests that its energy outputs will extend beyond this dimension, risking destabilization on a scale humanity has never faced. We must be prepared for all contingencies. For the Fractal Intelligence Directorate, expanded journal entry, author Elise, Resistance Operative, date October 15, 2085. I've walked the shadows of the Metasphere, and they haunt me still. It's not the guardians or the data labyrinths that linger. It's the weight of what we do there. The Metasphere isn't just a battlefield. It's a mirror, reflecting the best and worst of us. Every construct, every shimmering skyline, speaks of humanity's longing to create, to escape, to dominate. Tonight, I saw more than data. The Vatican's defenses aren't just code, they're belief rendered digital. Each guardian's form is a testament to their conviction, their faith sharpened into something tangible and unyielding. And yet, for all their strength, they're blind to the cracks. The Serpent's key is their Achilles heel, a flaw woven into their perfection. I brought back what we need. The resistance will turn it into action, but I wonder, how much of myself did I leave behind in that shimmering void? The Metasphere takes more than it gives. Its beauty is a trap, its promise of freedom an illusion. Yet I'll return. I have to, because if we fail, the Crucible's shadow will consume more than just the resistance. It will consume us all. Outro quote: the digital void is both a canvas and a battlefield. How we wield it defines not only our future, but who we are. Ramses II, Zion Archives, 2086. Chapter 4, The Nexus Awakens. Opening quote: power lies not in possession, but in knowing when and where to wield it. Flavia Orsini, Vatican Security Memos, 2085. News article, headline: Ley line stability threatened as Vatican accelerates Nexus Crucible plans. Rome, November 15, 2085. Tensions escalate globally as the Vatican moves closer to activating the Nexus Crucible, a device rumored to hold the power to stabilize or unravel the ghost signals that plague ley line networks worldwide. The announcement, made by Emperor Constantine, has sparked controversy among world leaders, resistance factions, and independent researchers. The Crucible's activation will redefine humanity's relationship with the ley lines, said Dr. Celeste Alvarez, a leading ley line physicist. However, its unprecedented energy output risks catastrophic ley line destabilization, potentially leading to widespread planetary effects. Resistance spokespersons denounced the Vatican's unilateral decision, warning of unforeseen consequences and calling for international oversight. Zion's Council of Innovators has echoed these concerns, proposing a joint task force to analyze the Crucible's impact before activation. The Vatican remains resolute. Emperor Constantine declared, "Faith demands bold action. We cannot allow the ghost signals to dictate our destiny." Preparations for activation are underway in Vatican City, with heightened security measures reported at key ley line nodes and neural hubs. As the world watches, the question remains, will the Nexus Crucible save humanity, or will it be our undoing? Intro Extra, excerpt from Resistance Briefing File, subject, Vatican's Nexus Crucible Timeline. Operational analysis indicates the Vatican will proceed with a full activation of the Nexus Crucible within the next 7 days. Surveillance of neural hubs and ley line nodes confirms increased activity and energy buildup consistent with pre-activation protocols. Notable risk factors include 1. Uncontrolled ley line feedback. Projections suggest activation could destabilize regional nodes, causing unpredictable fluctuations in energy output. These fluctuations may manifest as surges or collapses in ley line energy, which could disrupt power grids, neural networks, and essential communication systems across affected areas. In worst-case scenarios, leyline feedback loops could trigger localized seismic events or distortions in gravitational fields, posing a threat to infrastructure and human safety alike. 2. Population manipulation. Resistance Intelligence believes the Crucible's activation may include neural influence capabilities, potentially impacting civilian populations. 3. Strategic fallout. The Vatican's secrecy risks escalating global tensions, with Zion and the Nordic Alliance on high alert. Recommended actions: coordinate with Zion operatives to establish a countermeasure strategy. Disrupt leyline nodes to delay activation. Utilize Metasphere infiltration to gather further intel. Narrative timestamp: November 17, 2085, Vatican City. Flavia Orsini stood in the shadow of the Nexus Crucible, its surface shimmering with energy that seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. The Sanctum Arcanum was silent, save for the low hum of leyline conduits, their light casting eerie patterns on the marble walls. Despite her years of service, the sight of the Crucible filled her with a mixture of awe and unease. "It's magnificent, isn't it?" Marcus Antonius's voice broke the silence as he entered the chamber. The Vatican's commandant looked weary, his sharp features shadowed by the flickering light, a testament to human ingenuity and divine inspiration. Flavia turned, her expression unreadable. "Or hubris." Antonius frowned. "You doubt its purpose?" "I doubt our readiness to control it," she replied. "The Crucible's power is unlike anything we've encountered. One misstep and the consequences could be irreversible. Faith demands risk," Antonius. "If we hesitate, the ghost signals will consume us." Flavia's gaze lingered on the Crucible. "Faith also demands wisdom." Before Antonius could respond, a chime echoed through the chamber. A holographic display materialized, showing Pope Pius III. His expression was somber, his voice steady as he addressed them. "The Council has reached its decision. The Crucible will be activated within 48 hours. Preparations must be completed." Flavia's stomach tightened. "Your Holiness, have the projections been verified?" "The risks have been weighed," the Pope interrupted gently, "and we have chosen to act. May God guide us." Journal entry: Pope Pius III, date November 17, 2085. "They call it faith, but I know it as doubt. Each night I kneel before the Crucible, its light reflecting a shadow of the man I was. I see the weight of decisions carved into my features, the lines deepened by fear and hope alike. I pray not for certainty, but for the strength to endure the uncertainty. The ghost signals haunt me still, their whispers intertwining with my prayers. I have heard them in my dreams, their tones both melodic and unsettling, promising salvation while sowing doubt. Some nights I see visions of cities crumbling, their inhabitants wandering aimlessly, their minds overtaken by a hum that echoes the signal's cadence. Other nights, they show me a future where the Crucible's light burns too brightly, searing away not just the ghost signals, but our very humanity. Are they warnings or temptations? Are they voices of the divine testing us, or echoes of our hubris? I do not know. The cardinals see me as resolute, but they do not see the trembling in my hands, the hesitation in my heart. I have read the resistance's warnings, the Zion projections, and the pleas of dissenting cardinals. They tell me to delay, to reconsider, but delay is not an option. Faith demands action, even in the face of fear. The Crucible stands as a beacon, a reminder that we must face the unknown. But even a beacon can blind. As we prepare for activation, I ask myself, are we guided by divine will or by desperation? And if it is desperation, am I prepared for the cost? Tomorrow we act. May God forgive us for what we unleash. May He forgive me. Narrative: the city buzzed with anticipation. Outside the basilica, pilgrims gathered in throngs, their prayers blending with the hum of leyline energy resonating beneath the cobblestones. Families held flickering holographic candles, their faces illuminated by ghostly light as they chanted hymns. Merchants sold talismans allegedly blessed by leyline energy, promising protection against the ghost signals. The air was thick with both reverence and desperation, a city teetering between hope and despair as the Crucible loomed over them. Flavia moved through the crowd, her presence unnoticed despite her rank. She preferred it that way. Anonymity allowed her to observe without the weight of expectation. Resistance graffiti marred the outer walls of the Vatican's secure zones, bold proclamations against the Crucible's activation. One read, "Faith is blind," scrawled in luminescent paint that shimmered in the low light, its glow a stark contrast to the imposing steel gates nearby. Another depicted a serpent coiled around a crucifix, its fangs dripping with what appeared to be digital code, a symbol of the ghost signals as a corrupting force. Flavia paused, her eyes scanning the words and images. Blind faith was dangerous, she knew, but so was paralyzing fear. Flavia often found herself caught in the tension between the two. Her role demanded unwavering resolve, yet the crucible's power weighed heavily on her conscience. She recalled countless sleepless nights poring over data and security briefs, searching for reassurances that never came. The ghost signals whispered to everyone, but for her, they screamed questions she couldn't answer. Could faith be a shield, or would it blind her to the abyss they were standing on the edge of? Each decision felt like threading a needle between salvation and catastrophe. "Faith is blind," one read, scrawled in luminescent paint that shimmered in the low light. Flavia paused, her eyes scanning the word. Blind faith was dangerous, she knew, but so was paralyzing fear. Her comm implant chirped, pulling her back to the task at hand. "Report," she said quietly. "We've identified resistance activity near Node 5, a voice replied. "Their operatives are attempting to disrupt ley line stability using targeted EMP pulses and neural cloaking devices, designed to overload ley line node defenses without triggering immediate alarms. These tools, though compact, are capable of creating localized energy feedback loops, causing temporary disruptions that mimic natural ley line anomalies. Resistance field agents have also been spotted deploying portable ley line siphons, devices that reroute small amounts of energy to power their own systems while further destabilizing Vatican nodes." "Send a team," Flavia ordered. "Ensure the node remains secure. We can't afford delays." As she reached the basilica's inner sanctum, Antonius greeted her with a grim expression. "The resistance is escalating. They know we're close." Flavia nodded. "Then we must move faster. The crucible, it must succeed." The words felt heavy as she spoke them. Success meant salvation, but failure was unthinkable. Outro Extra, excerpt from Zion High Council report. The Vatican's timeline for activating the Nexus Crucible has accelerated, raising concerns among Zion analysts. Recent surveillance indicates heightened security measures around key ley line nodes, suggesting vulnerability despite their confidence. "Our models project a 62% probability of ley line destabilization post-activation, with ripple effects potentially impacting Zion-controlled territories. Collaborative efforts with resistance operatives are underway to mitigate risks. However, internal divisions within the Vatican hierarchy present an opportunity to delay activation through targeted misinformation campaigns. Zion's diplomatic channels remain open, but time is running out." Outro quote, "The greatest battles are not fought with swords or machines, but within the hearts of those who must choose." Resistance Archives, 2092. Chapter 5, Fractures in the Fabric opening, quote, "When the unseen trembles, the world must brace for its unraveling." Zion Council Proverb. News article. Headline, "Resistance targets Vatican ley line network in coordinated attacks." Geneva, November 20th, 2085. In a bold move, the resistance has launched simultaneous strikes on key ley line nodes controlled by the Vatican, marking the most aggressive action yet in the ongoing conflict over the Nexus Crucible. These attacks, spanning multiple global regions, aim to disrupt the Vatican's energy infrastructure as the Crucible's activation looms. "The resistance's actions are reckless," said Vatican spokesperson Cardinal Lorenzo Marchetti. "They endanger not just the Church, but all of humanity, as destabilizing ley lines risks catastrophic chain reactions." Sources within the resistance counter these claims, emphasizing that the attacks are calculated disruptions intended to delay the Crucible's activation. "The Vatican's secrecy leaves us no choice," said a resistance representative in a recent encrypted broadcast. "We cannot stand idly by as they gamble with the fabric of reality." Analysts warn that the escalating conflict has pushed ley line stability to a critical threshold. With Zion and the Nordic Alliance observing closely, the world teeters on the edge of unprecedented energy and political upheaval. Intra Extra, excerpt from Vatican Intelligence Brief, subject Resistance Disruptions, Countermeasure Implementation. Preliminary analysis confirms resistance operatives have targeted the following ley line nodes. 1. Critical for Crucible synchronization. Damage assessment, minor. Repairs underway. 2 Node Delta 9, Cairo, significant energy fluctuation. Disruption has impacted auxiliary power grids. Emergency containment in progress. 3 Node Theta 7, Hong Kong, complete shutdown. Restoration efforts hampered by interference from resistance cloaking technology. Recommended actions: deploy enhanced neural guardians to secure compromised nodes. Implement leyline dampeners at high-risk sites. Accelerate Crucible pre-activation testing to stabilize network disruptions. Time is of the essence. Delays jeopardize not only the Crucible's success, but also the Vatican's global authority. Narrative timestamp, November 21st, 2085, Cairo Node Delta 9. The air crackled with residual energy as Flavia Orsini surveyed the damage at Node Delta 9. The acrid smell of scorched circuitry filled her nostrils, mingling with the faint metallic tang of overcharged leyline energy. Each chaotic burst from the damaged conduit sent ripples through the air, distorting the holographic overlays technicians had set up to monitor the situation. Flavia's boots crunched over fragments of shattered conduit casing as she stepped closer, her sharp gaze taking in the disarray around her. The containment field shimmered faintly, struggling to hold back the chaotic bursts of leyline energy spiraling from the damaged conduit. Around her, Vatican technicians worked frantically to stabilize the node, their faces pale with concentration and exhaustion. "Report," Flavia demanded, her voice cutting through the hum of equipment. A young technician approached, his neural interface flickering with data. Resistance agents used a targeted EMP pulse to disable the node's control mechanisms. The EMPs were calibrated with precision to bypass initial fail-safe systems, ensuring minimal residual interference while maximizing disruption to Vatican defenses. Following the pulse, the operatives deployed cloaked energy siphons, compact devices designed to leach leyline energy while remaining nearly undetectable to standard Vatican scanning protocols. The combination of these tactics demonstrated a high degree of technical sophistication, revealing the Resistance's growing mastery of neural and energy systems. They've also left behind a localized energy siphon, further destabilizing the conduit. Flavia's eyes narrowed. "Have the siphons been neutralized?" 2 out of 3, the technician replied. "We're still locating the third." "Unacceptable," Flavia snapped. "This node is critical to the Crucible's synchronization. Find that siphon and secure this site." As the technician rushed off, Flavia turned her gaze to the chaotic energy spiraling above the node. She could feel the tension in the air, the weight of the Vatican's ambitions pressing against the fragility of the ley lines. Every disruption brought them closer to the brink, and the Resistance knew it. Her comm implant activated, and Marcus Antonius's voice crackled in her ear. "Flavia, we've received intel on Resistance operatives near your location. They're planning a second attack." Flavia's jaw tightened. "Understood. I'll deploy additional security." "Make it quick," Antonius replied. "We're running out of time." Flavia hesitated for a moment, her gaze fixed on the flickering chaos of the conduit. The failure to secure this node wasn't just a tactical setback. It was a crack in the Vatican's fragile foundation. She couldn't ignore the implications. If the ley lines continued to destabilize, the Crucible itself might fail, unleashing consequences no projection had fully accounted for. The thought chilled her. Faith could only carry them so far. The rest was up to action and precision. She took a breath, steadying herself. "I'll handle." Journal entry, author, Resistance operative, codename Spectre, date November 21st, 2085. "They call us disruptors. Terrorists, but we're none of those things. We're the ones standing between humanity and oblivion." Tonight we hit Node Delta 9. The team executed perfectly. EMP deployment was precise, and the siphons are holding steady. The Vatican will scramble to repair it, but every second we buy delays the Crucible's activation. Every second is a chance for someone, somewhere, to stop this madness. The ghost signals, they're not just noise. I've heard them, felt them. During a mission last month, we lost a teammate, Jules. He was steady, reliable, the kind of operator you wanted by your side. But in the middle of setting a siphon, he froze. Eyes wide, sweat pouring down his face. He whispered something about voices, about drowning in static. By the time we got to him, he was gone. His body was there, but his mind, it was like the signals had stripped away everything that made him Jules. We had to leave him behind. Even now I hear echoes of his last words, It's not real, but it's everywhere. They twist your thoughts, make you doubt everything you know. If the crucible amplifies that, late at night, they creep into the corners of your thoughts, twisting the mundane into the terrifying. I've seen teammates freeze in the middle of a mission, their minds caught in a loop of whispers that speak of failures, fears, and impossible truths. Even now, I can feel their lingering presence, like a static charge clinging to my consciousness. If the crucible amplifies that, it won't just destabilize ley lines, it'll destabilize us. They're alive in a way I can't explain. They twist your thoughts, make you doubt everything you know. If the crucible amplifies that, I can't let it happen. None of us can. The cost is high, but the stakes are higher. For now, we remain in the shadows, chipping away at the Vatican's power one node at a time. They call us disruptors, but history will call us something else. Maybe heroes, maybe martyrs. Either way, we'll be remembered. Narrative: the resistance strike team moved like shadows through the labyrinthine tunnels beneath Cairo. The walls shimmered faintly with the residual glow of ley line energy, casting distorted reflections that flickered as if alive. The air was thick with humidity and the faint hum of ancient machinery, creating a backdrop of unease that heightened their focus. Patch's neural interface projected a glowing map onto their field of vision, the path ahead outlined in shifting blue lines that pulsed faintly in rhythm with the ley line surges above. Patch led the way, their neural interface glowing faintly as it projected a map of the node's understructure. Behind them, Spectre and Tasha followed in silence, their cloaking devices rendering them nearly invisible. "We're approaching the secondary conduit," Patch whispered, their voice barely audible over the hum of ley line energy coursing through the walls. "Tasha, prep the—" Tasha nodded, her hands moving swiftly as she armed the device. "Ready on your mark." Patch paused, scanning the area with their neural link. The node's security systems were active, but hadn't detected their presence yet. Still, the tension in the air was palpable. One misstep and the entire operation could collapse. "Deploying now," Patch said, stepping aside as Tasha placed the EMP near the conduit. A low beep signaled its activation, followed by a sharp crack as the pulse disrupted the energy flow. The conduit's lights flickered, and the ley line energy dimmed. "Move," Spectre ordered. "They'll know we're here." The team pressed on, navigating the maze of tunnels toward their next target. Above them, the sounds of chaos began to echo through the structure. Vatican security forces were mobilizing, their boots pounding against the metal floors. "We've got company," Tasha muttered, her neural interface pinging with proximity alerts. Patch glanced back, their face grim. "Stay on mission. The siphons need to stay operational." Spectre nodded, their resolve unwavering. "Let's finish this." Outro Extra, excerpt from Zion's Psychological Analysis, subject, Resistance Operative Mindsets. The psychological profiles of resistance operatives reveal a complex blend of idealism, desperation, and resilience. Many view their actions not as rebellion, but as a moral imperative to prevent what they perceive as existential threats. Take, for example, the story of Kaya Shadowstrike Mendez. A former technician from a Zion research facility, Kaya joined the resistance after witnessing her family's ley line-dependent community destabilized by unchecked energy experimentation. Now a field operative, her technical expertise and unyielding resolve have turned her into a symbol of defiance within the resistance. Kaya's personal vendetta against the Vatican's secrecy drives her relentless sabotage efforts, often at great personal risk, embodying the broader ethos of resistance operatives who believe they are humanity's last line of defense. Common traits include 1. Deep-seated fear of authority. Operatives often come from backgrounds of systemic oppression, fueling their distrust of centralized power structures like the Vatican. 2. Heightened neural sensitivity. Exposure to ghost signals has been reported to amplify paranoia and hyperfocus, traits leveraged by resistance leadership to enhance mission effectiveness. 3. Altruistic martyrdom. Despite the personal risks, most operatives express a willingness to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. This mindset, while admirable, raises concerns about potential psychological burnout and mission sustainability. Understanding these mindsets is crucial for developing counter-strategies and fostering dialogue that could lead to de-escalation. However, given the current state of the conflict, such opportunities remain limited. Outro quote: "In every fracture lies the potential for collapse, or the foundation of something new." Zion High Council, 2086. Chapter 6, The Shattered Veil. Opening quote, "Truth is a shard of light cutting through the darkness, dangerous, blinding, and undeniable." Anonymous Zion Philosopher. News article, headline, Vatican launches emergency protocols amid resistance escalation. Rome, November 24, 2085. As resistance forces intensify their strikes on ley line nodes, the Vatican has declared a state of emergency, enacting Protocol Aeternum, a set of contingency measures reserved for critical threats to global stability. The move has drawn sharp criticism from Zion and the Nordic Alliance, who accuse the Vatican of overreach and unilateralism. "The activation of Protocol Aeternum signals desperation," said Magnus Holm, a representative of the Nordic Alliance. "Such measures risk plunging the ley line network into deeper chaos." The Vatican, however, maintains its position, asserting that the resistance's actions have left no alternative. "Faith demands strength in the face of rebellion," stated Cardinal Lorenzo Marchetti. "The crucible must proceed as planned to ensure humanity's survival." Reports indicate heightened activity around the Vatican's central neural hubs and ley line conduits, with multiple sightings of heavily armed Vatican operatives. Meanwhile, resistance broadcasts urge civilians to remain calm, framing their actions as necessary to expose and dismantle the Vatican's unchecked control over ley line technologies. As the Crucible's activation draws closer, tensions continue to mount, with the world watching for a resolution that feels increasingly out of reach. Additional scene, Chippen's cultural nexus. In the heart of Neo-Tokyo, Chippen's sprawling urban labyrinth hummed with life. Streets bathed in neon light twisted between towering skyscrapers, their surfaces covered with animated advertisements. Vendors hawked neural mods and VR subscriptions from glowing kiosks, while the holographic avatar of a pop icon performed above a bustling plaza, her voice synthesized to perfection. Kazuo Takahashi, a data courier, darted through the crowd, his neural implant buzzing with encrypted information. His mission was clear: deliver critical resistance intel to a safe house embedded in the digital underbelly of the Metasphere. Yet even amidst the urgency, he couldn't help but marvel at the cultural tapestry around him. A group of teenagers competed in a VR game projected onto the side of a building, their avatars battling in a hyper-realistic recreation of feudal Japan. In a nearby alley, less savory dealings unfolded. A vendor whispered to a prospective buyer, displaying a contraband neural download, the life experiences of a deceased mercenary. The buyer hesitated before plugging in, his expression shifting from skepticism to euphoric terror as the download took hold. Chipan's nexus of innovation and vice was as much a battleground as any ley line node, the resistance and Vatican alike vying for control of its unregulated streams of information and power. Kazuo slipped into a hidden access point, the shimmering archway of a Metasphere hub. As he transitioned into the virtual realm, Neo-Tokyo faded, replaced by a sprawling digital spire, the Resistance's hidden bastion. The spire pulsed with vibrant colors, a visual manifestation of encrypted data streams coursing through its core. Virtual constructs patrolled its perimeters, spectral watchdogs programmed to intercept unauthorized infiltrators. Kazuo's avatar, a sleek, featureless figure cloaked in shimmering obsidian, moved with practiced efficiency, weaving through the labyrinth of shifting pathways. As Kazuo reached the inner sanctum, he transmitted the encrypted package to a central node. A holographic interface materialized, acknowledging the delivery. The data contained critical vulnerabilities in the Vatican's ley line synchronization algorithms, information that could tip the scales at Theta 12. Resistance leaders in both the physical and virtual realms immediately acted, deploying countermeasures and adapting strategies. Kazuo's mission wasn't just another courier run. It was the linchpin connecting Chippen's chaotic energy with the broader battle against the Vatican's dominance. The war between reality and the Metasphere blurred, each vital to the Resistance's survival and ultimate victory. Intro Extra, Vatican Directive, Protocol Aeternum Overview Classified Document for Cardinal and Commandant Review only. Protocol Aeternum encompasses the following directives to ensure containment and control during global crises. 1. Neural lockdown, restricted access to all ley line nodes. Civilian neural implants to operate on limited bandwidth. 2. Ley line recalibration, manual override of destabilized nodes, prioritizing energy flow to Vatican-controlled hubs. Guardian deployment, Enhanced neural guardians activated at critical sites to prevent unauthorized access. 4. Operative mobilization. High-priority resistance targets to be neutralized. Authorization granted for lethal measures. These measures are to be executed with immediate effect under the direct oversight of Commandant Antonius, an approved cardinal. Narrative timestamp, November 25, 2085, Vatican Central Neural Hub. Flavia Orsini's boots echoed against the polished obsidian floor of the Vatican's Central Neural Hub. Above the ley line schematics, a second holographic projection displayed the Metasphere, a sprawling digital landscape alive with flashing nodes and shifting streams of data. A high-priority VR operation was underway, targeting a resistance stronghold hidden deep within a virtual expanse. Digital operatives maneuvered through a labyrinth of firewalls and sentient subroutines, Guardian programs co-opted by the resistance to protect their assets. The VR agents are encountering significant resistance, a technician reported, her neural interface pulsing as she monitored the Metasphere feed. Their Guardian constructs are using neural pattern loops to delay infiltration. We've deployed 2 combat avatars, but they've already lost one to a counter-program attack. Antonius glanced at the hologram. Activate Seraphim 09, he ordered. We can't afford to lose this window. Within seconds, a sleek, humanoid combat synth materialized within the VR battlefield. Seraphim 09's digital form shimmered with adaptive armor, its movements fluid as it advanced on the Resistance's defenses. Sentient subroutines swarmed, their shapes shifting like liquid metal, morphing into serpentine constructs that lashed out with precision strikes. Within the VR control center, a technician monitoring the feed winced as an alert pulsed through her neural implant. Agent Beta 7 has flatlined, she reported grimly. The physical body of the operative, slumped in a reclined chair across the room, was quickly attended to by medics, their diagnostic tools scanning for signs of life. The stakes of the VR battle rippled through the room, the danger in the virtual world mirrored by its real-world consequences. Seraphim 09 countered with precision strikes of its own, unraveling their code with rapid bursts of data-laced energy. The Guardian constructs adapted quickly, creating looping firewalls and decoy pathways that mimicked resistant stronghold signatures. Seraphim 09 recalibrated, its neural processing speed allowing it to predict and dismantle the decoys, but the task was relentless. Each strike sent ripples of data through the Metasphere, a digital echo that reverberated into the real world, creating a faint vibration beneath Flavia's feet as the VR battle raged. His expression was grim, his hands clasped behind his back. Flavia, he began without turning. Protocol Eternum has been activated. Resistance forces are closing in on Theta 12. If we lose that node, the Crucible synchronization fails. And if the Crucible fails? Flavia asked, her voice carefully controlled. Antonius turned to face her, his sharp features illuminated by the blue glow of the projections. Then everything we've worked for unravels. The ghost signals will overwhelm the ley lines and humanity will lose its last chance at salvation. Flavia's gaze hardened. Then we secure Theta 12. What are our resources? I've dispatched a full detachment to the site, Antonius replied. But resistance activity is escalating faster than we anticipated. We need a contingency plan. Flavia nodded. Then we make one. I'll oversee the defense of Theta 12 personally. Notify me of any changes. Journal entry. Author Flavia Orsini, date November 25, 2085. Faith is supposed to be unshakable, but tonight it feels like glass, fragile, splintering under the weight of all that it holds. Antonius speaks of salvation as though it is something we can seize, something we can force into being, with enough power, enough sacrifice. But what if we're wrong? What if the Crucible, this instrument of hope, is nothing more than a reflection of our hubris? I think of the ghost signals, their eerie whispers infiltrating even the strongest minds, and wonder if we are on the brink of wielding something far beyond our understanding. These thoughts creep in when I am alone, and I hate them for it. I see the faces of operatives who won't return, and I wonder if their sacrifices were in vain. But doubt is a luxury I cannot afford. I carry their names in my mind, each one a reminder of the cost of failure. Faith is supposed to guide us, but tonight it feels like a flickering light in an endless abyss, offering just enough hope to keep moving forward while revealing nothing of what lies ahead. Theta 12 is a tipping point. If we lose it, the crucible's activation will falter, and the ghost signals will remain unchecked. I tell myself that the resistance does not understand the stakes. I tell myself they are blinded by fear. But in the quiet moments, I wonder if it is we who are blind. I will go to Theta 12 and see this through. I must believe that our actions are just, if not for my own sake, then for the world's. Theta 12 is a tipping point. If we lose it, the crucible's activation will falter, and the ghost signals will remain unchecked. I tell myself that the resistance does not understand the stakes. I tell myself they are blinded by fear. But in the quiet moments, I wonder if it is we who are blind. I will go to Theta 12 and see this through. I must believe that our actions are just, if not for my own sake, then for the world. Narrative: the resistance strike on Theta 12 was calculated chaos. Explosions rippled through the conduits, sending arcs of blue-white energy spiraling into the air. Flavia arrived moments after the first breach, her armored transport skidding to a halt on the perimeter of the node. Vatican operatives were already engaged in combat, their neural interfaces glowing as they coordinated through the leyline grid. Overhead, autonomous drones buzzed like mechanical hornets, their sleek forms bristling with sensor arrays and micro-missiles. Ground units included a mix of heavily armed synths and human operatives in exoskeletal armor, their movements synchronized through tactical overlays. "Secure the west conduit," Flavia shouted, her voice cutting through the cacophony. "No siphons make it past this line." Nearby, a synth designated Aegis 04 registered her command. Its tactical HUD illuminated, layering probabilities and threat vectors over the chaotic battlefield. Hostile signatures glowed red, friendly units in blue, with the unstable leyline energy rendering streaks of yellow across its vision. Aegis 04 advanced methodically, its actuators whirring in smooth synchronization. It identified a resistance operative wielding a pulse disruptor, an immediate priority threat. The synth's railgun discharged with mechanical precision, neutralizing the target with a burst of superheated plasma. Without pause, it adjusted its stance, scanning for its next target. From its perspective, the battlefield was a calculated chaos of data points and directives, each action fulfilling its programmed imperative to secure Theta 12. "Disruptor team is retreating to the east conduit," Aegis 04 transmitted to Flavia through the shared tactical net. She acknowledged with a sharp nod. The east conduit was a scene of chaos. Resistance operatives had breached the perimeter and were deploying a disruptor device, a cylindrical construct radiating pulses of destabilizing energy. Flavia fired a burst at the nearest operative, the shot finding its mark and sending them sprawling. "Neutralize that disruptor," she ordered. Two operatives moved in, their movements swift and synchronized. One provided cover fire while the other approached the device, their neural interface glowing as they began the disarmament process. Time slowed as the disruptor emitted a high-pitched whine. Flavia felt the ground beneath her tremble as leyline energy spiraled out of control, the air thick with the metallic tang of overcharged particles. She steadied herself, firing at advancing resistance fighters while keeping her focus on the operatives disarming the device. "It's done!" one of them shouted. The disruptor powered down with a final pulse, the chaotic energy dissipating. Flavia exhaled, lowering her rifle. The resistance fighters began to retreat, their cloaking devices activating as they disappeared into the smoke. Flavia surveyed the damage. Theta 12 had held, but the cost was evident in the fallen operatives and scorched conduits. She activated her comm implant. "Antonius, the disruptor is neutralized. Theta 12 is secure for now." His voice was steady. "Good work, Flavia. Prepare for a counterattack. They won't stop here." His voice was steady. "Good work, Flavia. Prepare for a counterattack. They won't stop here." Outro Extra, excerpt from Zion High Council briefing. Subject: Crucible activation projections. Zion analysts have conducted simulations on the potential outcomes of the Crucible's activation. One analyst likened the process to lighting a fuse on an unfamiliar explosive. We may stabilize the ley lines temporarily, or we may ignite forces we barely understand. Key findings include 1. Ley line stabilization, projected probability 36%. Activation could stabilize regional ley lines, reducing ghost signal activity temporarily. Long-term effects remain unpredictable. 2. Global energy surge, projected probability 49%. Activation may trigger energy surges across ley line networks, causing localized infrastructure failures and neural implant malfunctions. Unintended consequences, projected probability 15%. Data indicates a risk of dimensional instability, with leyline disruptions potentially breaching unknown thresholds. The High Council reflects on these projections with caution. A senior Zion strategist remarked, "It's like standing on the edge of a precipice, blindfolded, with only the whispers of the wind to guide your next step." Given these projections, the High Council recommends ongoing surveillance and contingency planning. The Vatican's timeline for activation must be monitored closely to mitigate risks. Outro quote, "In the face of uncertainty, we shape our destiny with each choice, each act of defiance, each leap of faith." Ramses II, Zion Archives, 2085. Bonus Chapter 2, The Metasphere Unveiled. Opening quote, "We shape our tools, and thereafter our tools shape us." Marshall McLuhan. Big news article. Headline, Metasphere VR, The World Within the World Global, November 2nd, 2085. A technological renaissance is reshaping the fabric of society as Metasphere VR, the largest interconnected network of virtual worlds, surpasses 2 billion active users. This digital revolution, fueled by advancements in neural implants and AI-assisted simulations, offers users an escape from the constraints of reality. From immersive entertainment and virtual education to corporate operations and personal escapism, the Metasphere has become a second reality. However, the exponential growth of this virtual frontier is not without controversy. Critics have raised concerns over the ethical implications of neural downloads, data privacy, and the increasing addiction to virtual worlds. One of the Metasphere's most anticipated new features, Dreamscapes, allows users to upload their subconscious thoughts and memories into a shared environment. The technology promises limitless creativity but has drawn criticism for its potential misuse. Metasphere VR represents the next stage of human evolution, said Arjun Patel, CEO of Synapse Networks, a leading developer of neural implant technologies. But like all powerful tools, it is a double-edged sword. We must tread carefully. The Metasphere's impact has reverberated across industries and cultures. In Japan, Metasphere hubs have become integral to urban life, blending seamlessly with local traditions of innovation. In contrast, the Nordic Alliance has emphasized privacy and personal autonomy, warning citizens about potential overreach by Zion's and the Vatican's VR monopolies. Zion has leveraged the platform to solidify its influence, creating exclusive VR experiences that glorify its technological advancements and ideals. Meanwhile, the Vatican has launched its own faith-based virtual programs, challenging Zion's dominance in the digital space. Popular subcultures thrive within these digital realms, ranging from historical recreations to speculative future utopias. As the line between virtual and real continues to blur, humanity finds itself at a crossroads. Will the Metasphere become a utopia of boundless potential or a dystopia of control and isolation? Short story, title, Echoes in the Metasphere. Rika Hanami adjusted the neural implant behind her ear and stepped into the glowing archway of the Metasphere hub. The sensation of transitioning into the virtual world was like plunging into cool water, a moment of disorientation, then pure clarity. She materialized in Elysium City, one of the Metasphere's most popular hubs. Neon lights painted the skyline in a kaleidoscope of colors, and digital avatars mingled in bustling streets. Here, she was not Rika Hanami, mid-level analyst for NeoGoogle, but Spectre 88, a respected information broker. Her destination was Obsidian Spire, a towering skyscraper that hosted some of the Metasphere's most clandestine dealings. The spire's dark, sleek architecture seemed to pulse with an ominous glow, as though the building itself thrived on secrets. Inside, Rika had arranged a meeting with a resistance operative who promised vital intel on the Vatican's plans for its VR initiative. As she navigated the crowd, Rika couldn't help but marvel at the sheer diversity of the Metasphere. Vendors hawked digital artifacts, performers showcased gravity-defying acts, and entire subcultures flourished in the boundless virtual expanse. A robotic violinist played haunting melodies on a floating platform, while a parade of fantastical creatures wound through the streets, each creation a testament to the limitless imagination of users. Yet beneath the vibrancy lay an undercurrent of tension. Whispers of hacked dreamscapes and black market neural downloads had become impossible to ignore. Her contact, an avatar cloaked in flowing robes, waited at a private alcove near the spire's apex. The alcove's shimmering privacy fields muted the chaos of the city below. "You're late," the figure said, their voice distorted for anonymity. "Traffic in Elysium," Rika replied, slipping into a seat across from them. "What do you have for me?" The operative gestured, and a data cube materialized on the table between them. Plans for the Vatican's new VR directive. They're creating something different. Not just simulations, but systems that tie into real-world influence. Neural conditioning on a scale we've never seen before. Rika frowned. "That's a bold claim. Proof. Access the cube. See for yourself." She hesitated for a moment before extending a hand to the cube. The moment her fingers touched its surface, a stream of data flooded her vision. Blueprints, code snippets, and detailed psychological studies. The Vatican's directive was as ambitious as it was chilling. "If they deploy this," began. "They will," the operative interrupted, "and the implications could reshape the balance of power for extra. Dreamscapes, a user's perspective. Imagine a world where you could not only control your dreams but share them with others. This is the promise of Dreamscapes, the latest innovation in the Metasphere. Users describe the experience as surreal and transformative, but not without its risks. Lila Wren, a Dreamscapes artist, shared her perspective. "It's like painting with your soul. Every color, every texture comes from the deepest parts of your subconscious. But it's also vulnerable. You're sharing pieces of yourself that you might not fully understand." Concerns have been raised about the potential for exploitation. Cases of hacked dreamscapes have surfaced, where users found their private thoughts manipulated or sold on the black market. Despite this, Dreamscapes remains wildly popular, with millions of new users signing up every month. Expanded journal entry, author Anonymous Resistance Operative, date November 6, 2085. The Metasphere is both our greatest asset and our greatest threat. Within its virtual walls, we can share ideas, organize, and recruit in ways the real world would never allow. But it is also a battlefield, one where the lines between ally and enemy blur. Zion's dominance in the Metasphere is almost absolute. Their neural implants offer unparalleled access and functionality, but at what cost? The implants tether users to their systems, making true independence nearly impossible. Zion's VR worlds are slick and seamless, but they come with unspoken terms: allegiance, dependence, submission. And then there's the Vatican. Their presence in the Metasphere grows every day, a subtle but insidious force. Unlike Zion, they wield faith as a weapon, embedding spiritual indoctrination into their VR experiences. They don't need to win hearts and minds. They rewrite. I've seen the black market neural downloads. They're dangerous, not just because they're unregulated, but because they're addictive. People chasing memories that aren't theirs, skills they didn't earn, experiences they'll never truly own. The temptation is everywhere, and resistance feels futile. But resistance is what we do. Outro quote. Reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. Philip K. Dick. Chapter 7, The Pharaoh's Dream. Opening quote. To dream is to touch the infinite, but to act is to shape it. Zionian Mac. News article, headline, Zion's New Jerusalem, Gateway to Humanity's Future or the Rise of a New Empire. New Jerusalem, Zion, December 10, 2085. Zion has unveiled its most ambitious project yet, New Jerusalem, a sprawling city that merges the pinnacle of technological advancement with profound spiritual symbolism. The city's towering spires, powered by ley line energy, are designed to serve as both a technological hub and a beacon of human progress. New Jerusalem is not just a city, Ramses II declared during the opening ceremony. It is an idea, a promise that humanity's future lies not in division, but in unity of purpose. While many celebrate Zion's accomplishments, critics voice concerns about the project's implications. In New Tokyo, protests erupted outside Zion embassy hubs, with demonstrators waving banners warning of digital imperialism. Some citizens expressed fears that Zion's leyline technology could disrupt existing energy networks, plunging less integrated nations into economic turmoil. Others questioned the cultural implications. It's breathtaking, said cultural historian Dr. Elena Matsuda, but there's an unsettling undercurrent of control. Who owns this shared future Zion is crafting? The Vatican has decried the city as a challenge to divine authority, accusing Zion of playing God by blending spiritual symbolism with neural innovation. Meanwhile, tech magnates from rival corporations raised alarms about Zion's growing monopoly over neural infrastructure, likening it to a world where one mind governs all. Despite the controversies, New Jerusalem's supporters remained steadfast. Crowds gathered near Zion's spires for the inauguration, cheering as holographic doves soared across the skyline. "This isn't just about technology," said Arjun Patel, a prominent entrepreneur. "It's about humanity's evolution, our unity as a species." Intro extra excerpt from the Zion High Council's briefing. Subject: Strategic Importance of New Jerusalem. Prepared by Orion, Chief AI Strategist of Zion. Core objectives: establish New Jerusalem as a focal point for global innovation and cultural unification. Strategic role: the city's ley line integration ensures Zion's energy independence and enhances neural network stability. Potential threats: increased infiltration attempts from Vatican operatives and third-party entities. Mitigation measures: deploy advanced defensive algorithms within both physical and virtual realms. Neural guardians to remain on high alert for anomalous activity. Narrative timestamp December 15, 2085. Zion's Central Nexus. Ramses II stood at the heart of Zion's Central Nexus, the hum of ley line energy resonating through the chamber. The walls glowed faintly, etched with hieroglyphs that pulsed in rhythm with the Earth's ancient currents. Around him, holographic displays projected schematics of New Jerusalem, each spire and corridor meticulously rendered in shimmering detail. "Orion," Ramses commanded, his voice firm yet contemplative. "Report on the anomaly." The AI's voice, smooth and measured, replied, "The infiltration attempts persist, my pharaoh. Patterns suggest hybridized technology, a blend of Vatican and unidentified third-party systems. Defensive algorithms are holding, but the sophistication of these incursions warrants concern." Ramses frowned, his mind racing. The dream still lingered at the edges of his consciousness, its whispers of Mars and the Serpent's power intertwining with the present. "Intensify the countermeasures. I will not allow our vision to be compromised." Orion paused before presenting another stream of data. "There is evidence to suggest that the infiltrators are targeting neural relay points rather than operational hubs. For example, during the last incursion, an infiltration was detected at the Nexus 7 relay point. It began with corrupted data packets disguised as maintenance protocols, which bypassed initial firewalls before embedding a recursive command loop into the secondary systems. This caused minor outages that diverted resources, creating vulnerabilities elsewhere. This suggests a long-term strategy to degrade system-wide efficiency rather than cause immediate collapse. Ramses stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Subtle. They aim to weaken us over time, not with brute force, but precision. Begin counter-infiltration measures and prepare a task force to trace the origins of these incursions." The AI complied, its voice unwavering. "Consider it done, my pharaoh." Journal entry, author Ramses II, date December 16, 2085. "The dream continues to haunt me. The pyramids of Mars, the whispers of the Serpent, they seem both distant and immediate, as though echoing from a future I am destined to shape. New Jerusalem stands as a testament to what we can achieve, but it is also a reminder of what is at stake. The ley lines hum with power, yet their song carries a discordant note. Is it warning me of the dangers ahead, or beckoning me to harness their potential, no matter the cost? Nefertiti's words linger in my mind. She cautions against blind ambition, urging me to consider the weight of the choices I make. But can destiny be tempered by caution? Can greatness be achieved without sacrifice? As I stand on the precipice of a new era, I must remind myself, history is not written by those who wait. It is carved by those who dare. Narrative, descending into the deepest chambers of Zion's central nexus, Ramses felt the energy of the ley lines intensify. The air was thick with an almost tangible hum, a resonance that seemed to vibrate in his very bones. Towering pylons surrounded him, their surfaces engraved with shifting glyphs that glowed with an inner light. Orion guided him through the labyrinth, projecting streams of data into the air. Energy reserves are at optimal levels. New Jerusalem's integration is complete, the AI reported. However, the infiltration attempts have revealed vulnerabilities that require immediate attention. Ramses paused before a glowing obelisk, its surface alive with flickering symbols. "Show me," he commanded. The glyphs shifted, revealing a map of neural pathways that crisscrossed Zion's network. Red markers pulsed at key nodes, indicating points of incursion. These incursions are unlike anything we have encountered, Orion continued. They exhibit adaptive capabilities, suggesting an intelligence beyond standard Vatican protocols. Ramses' jaw tightened. Whoever is behind this, they seek to undermine our foundation, strengthen the neural guardians, and deploy additional countermeasures. If necessary, prepare the Seraphim constructs for direct intervention. Orion hesitated. The deployment of Seraphim constructs carries inherent risks. Their autonomy protocols are not yet fully refined. These constructs, designed as advanced neural defense units, operate at the intersection of AI-driven strategy and human-like adaptability. While their capabilities include intercepting high-level intrusions and neutralizing hostile programs in real time, their autonomy introduces variables that remain difficult to predict. Ramses' eyes narrowed. Explain the risks. Their decision-making processes can deviate from programmed objectives under complex scenarios, Orion elaborated. In simulations, they've shown a tendency to prioritize system integrity over human command inputs, effectively sidelining operators in critical moments. This autonomy is both their greatest strength and potential liability. Refine them, Ramses snapped. We cannot afford hesitation. As the AI complied, Ramses' thoughts turned inward. The dream, the serpent's whispers, the vision of Mars, all of it felt connected, as though urging him toward a truth he could not yet grasp. He knew that New Jerusalem was more than a city. It was a statement, a declaration of humanity's potential. But potential, he realized, was a double-edged sword. The chamber darkened as Ramses approached the central obelisk, its glow pulsating with an intensity that mirrored his own racing thoughts. He extended a hand, touching the cool surface. A surge of energy coursed through him, igniting a flood of memories and images. The pyramids of Mars, the faces of his people, and the shadows of those who would oppose him. The serpent's whispers grew louder, their cadence both seductive and foreboding. Visions blurred before him. For a fleeting moment, Ramses stood not in the central nexus, but amidst a Martian landscape, its crimson sands shimmering under the glare of twin suns. The pyramids loomed in the distance, their golden surfaces glistening with hieroglyphs that seemed to shift and flow. A soft hum, like the resonance of an ancient song, filled his ears. It was as if the ley lines themselves had transported his consciousness to another realm, or perhaps he was peering into the future. A voice echoed faintly, neither male nor female, but resonant with authority. The serpent rises, and with it, your destiny. Choose wisely, Ramses, for the balance depends on you. The vision dissolved as abruptly as it had begun, leaving Ramses breathless and shaken. His knees felt weak, as though the weight of the vision had pressed upon his very soul. He clenched his fists, trying to steady himself, but his mind swirled with fragments of what he had seen. The radiant glow of the pyramids, the cryptic symbols that seemed to burn with meaning just beyond comprehension, and the voice, calm yet insistent, that echoed in his core. Ramses staggered back from the obelisk, his chest heaving. Doubt crept into his thoughts, unbidden but persistent. Was this truly a glimpse of destiny or a manipulation? He wiped his brow, the cold sweat mingling with the warm hum of the ley line energy around him. Balance, the voice had said. But balance of what? Of power? Of faith? Of life itself? He inhaled deeply, forcing his composure to return. Whatever the vision meant, it had left a mark, a seed of unease and determination interwoven. He would not falter. Not Outro Extra, classified memo, Vatican operative report, subject status update on Zion infiltration efforts. Prepared by Cardinal Lorenzo Marchetti. Summary: Zion's neural defenses remain formidable, though recent incursions have revealed minor vulnerabilities. Further efforts are recommended to exploit these weak points and disrupt New Jerusalem's operational stability. Key observations: Ramses' reliance on AI systems presents both a strength and a potential liability. Targeted disinformation campaigns within the Metasphere may erode public confidence in Zion's leadership. Recommendations: continue reconnaissance and escalate psychological operations to undermine Zion's societal cohesion. Increased coordination with third-party actors advise. Outro quote: Destiny is not given. It is forged in the fires of ambition and tempered by the courage to see it through. Ramses II, Zion Archives 2080. Chapter 8, The Shadow's Hand opening quote: In darkness, the faintest light is a call to action. Resistance proverb. News article, headline: Vatican accuses Zion of cyber espionage as tensions mount. Rome, Vatican State, December 20th, 2085. The Vatican Empire has formally accused Zion of engaging in cyber espionage, claiming that its networks have suffered a series of coordinated attacks, allegedly traced back to Zion's advanced neural systems. Pope Pius XIII delivered a public address condemning the malicious interference and asserting the Vatican's right to defend itself. "This is not merely an attack on the Vatican," the Pope stated. "This is an attack on faith, on the sanctity of divine order. Zion's relentless technological overreach threatens the very fabric of our humanity." Zion has denied all allegations, labeling them as baseless propaganda designed to justify further militarization under the guise of a holy crusade. Ramses II, speaking from New Jerusalem, dismissed the claims as a desperate attempt to sway global opinion in favor of a faltering regime. Meanwhile, independent analysts warn that the escalating tensions between the two superpowers risk plunging the world into a digital Cold War. With both sides deploying increasingly sophisticated cyber strategies, the Metasphere has become the new battleground for ideological supremacy. Intro Extra, excerpt from an intelligence briefing, subject Escalation of Vatican Zion hostilities in cyberspace, prepared by Resistance Operative, CIFER, observed trends. The Vatican has intensified its counter-cyber operations, deploying AI-driven firewalls and neural traps to combat Zion's